We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. A long time ago when we first got started, this gentleman here and his dad were very unselfish, very gracious to give us the opportunity to come on a particular radio station. Can I say it?
WOLB, come on.
W
Mitchell's Maryland Magazine.
Absolutely. I believe our publication du jour at that time was the North Avenue Review.
Come on, that's right. You going back there.
Years later, the one and only. You're here on WBAL, and of course we're doing this interview here. How have you been, sir?
I'm doing great, Doni Glover. Great to talk to you, my friend. I listen to you regularly, doing a great job.
Good deal, good deal. And your dad's well?
My father is doing well. He listens to you, too. As a matter of fact, he's a guest of yours occasionally. I hear him occasionally with you.
We have to have the bear. Let me get to one of the points that has just been burning in my brain. I've been talking to people like Jill Carter lately, people like Darren Muhammad. Where's the black agenda in the state of Maryland?
There isn't one. If you remember, and folks can criticize me for a lot of things, but before I endorsed Robert Ehrlich for governor, then
Memorandum of Understanding with the Black Community, Coppin State.
We laid it out. We laid out exactly about 12 to 13 broad but yet specific types of ideas that we wanted to incorporate in that new governor's administration. And I'm not going to say we got all of them done, but we got about 70% of them done in 4 years. Had there been another 4 years, we would have had a new memorandum of understanding. But there's never been that type of document put together to get both candidates, not just one, both candidates, Republican and Democrat, to sign.
The Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland today, Thursday, November the 4th, they're kicking off their annual weekend.
Yeah, the party will start.
But I have not heard a word regarding a black agenda. And just so you know, and you can bring me up to speed, you certainly have been a teacher and mentor to me, but we push at BeMoreNews.com black business, public education, specifically or particularly in Baltimore and Prince George's County, where the state of Maryland is touted as the best, having the best public education system in the country. We find those two jurisdictions to be at the bottom of the totem pole, along with those three other areas that you're very familiar with: ex-offender services, affordable housing, and universal access to health care. What saith you?
What saith me is the fact that our vote, particularly in Prince George's and Baltimore, has been taken for granted for so long in this state that I think we're just used to being neglected. It's almost like a Stockholm syndrome, where you start identifying with your capital.
Like domestic abuse.
Same thing. And I think what we fail to see with, I think, is it close to 40 members of the caucus now? Is it close to that number? I think it's around there. What we see with 40 members of the House of Delegates and State Senate is the lack of any cohesive, business-driven agenda. You have Peter Franchot stronger on the issue of minority inclusion than you do members of the Black Caucus.
Why?
He comes on your show. Peter Franchot comes on my show. He talks about in those Board of Public Works
What
meetings,
are we afraid of?
the lack of minority
Are
participation.
black people afraid of white people?
No, what I think we have, and I haven't been afraid to say, is weak leadership. You get exactly the government that you deserve. Thoreau said that years ago. And we keep voting in people who have no vision, who have no agenda.
Okay, in your district, it'll always be your district, 44th. Ruth Kirk did not get reelected.
Look, I respect Delegate Kirk. She came in. We both got elected the same year in 1982. I was 20 years old. But it was time to step down. Okay. You can't have people serving in office when they're 80, 84, 86.
Especially if they're not effective. I think Jill Carter made that point.
I still think 80 and 84, it's time to step down.
Well, one would think
we make judges. Look, we make judges step down at the age of 70.
We would think that those individuals would have made their mark at some point and helped develop the bench. Let's go over to East Baltimore briefly. Delegate Hattie Harrison.
Yes. She got reelected.
Why?
Well, I think that the dynamic...
I mean, if Ruth Kirk is, if her time was up, no disrespect, but Hattie's physically not able to muster the challenges of moving around Annapolis on her own.
You have to look at who was running in each district. And you had my cousin Kiefer, who was fortunate to get elected in the 44th. But if you didn't have a Kiefer Mitchell run in the 44th, I'm not sure Ruth Kirk loses.
I'm going to say it. It may not be popular, but in the West Baltimore area, City Councilwoman Agnes Welch, her son Pete Welch has been laying in the wing on deck for some time. People are wondering, where are we going with that?
You have to look, once again, Donnie, at the electorate. You have to look at the voters themselves. I'm critical of our elected officials, but I also have to be critical of the electorate. The voters continue to put them in office. They don't get there on their own. They just don't walk in and say, I'm a city councilwoman or a delegate. The people vote them in. So you have to begin pointing your finger at the voters and what are they looking for? What kind of leadership do the voters want?
Okay, Baltimore is looking at a mayoral race next year, 2011.
Oh, it's going to be juicy. It's going to be fun.
Will Stephanie Rawlins Blake win her first citywide election as mayor?
She can if Kwesi Mfume doesn't run. And what I'm hearing is you might have a run from Kwesi Mfume for mayor. You may have a run from State Senator Kathy Pugh for mayor. And if there are enough African Americans in the race, from what I'm hearing,
That
you might
benefits.
see a Michael Sarbanes running for mayor. So, we might see the
Let's throw the
dynamic.
rest of them. Otis Rowley, Carl Stokes.
Correct, correct. All those out. So when you throw them out there, if there is another Martin O'Malley dynamic from 1999 in 2011, you may see a white mayor of Baltimore again.
Okay, we haven't talked with you since the state's attorney interesting upset Greg Bernstein. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't. That was one of the worst campaigns I ever saw run. in
Oh,
Patricia
this is
Jessamine.
Larry Gibson at the helm.
No, Larry came
Oh,
in very late.
Pat Scott?
Well, I'm not going to identify whoever was running it. If it was Pat Scott was the manager, I don't even know who the campaign manager was. But I'm telling you now, that was one of the worst campaigns I ever saw. The biggest mistake Pat made was when that whole sign issue with the police commissioner occurred.
She shouldn't have handled
knew,
that?
Nobody knew who Greg Bernstein was. It was a Baltimore Sun article. It would have been one day and gone. Pat calls a press conference, talks about she wants to sign off the lawn. Now the whole city knows who Greg Bernstein is.
Was her problem with white people in the city, or
No.
was her problem with black females in particular?
If you look at the 41st district and also you look at the 43rd, that's Senator Joan Carter Conway's district and Senator Lisa Glad's district, Greg Bernstein ran very well in those big, heavy black voting districts. He didn't
Why?
win.
Why?
He didn't win because I think a lot of folks saw in 15 years of State's Attorney Jessamine, with all respect, by the way, of her service, a disconnect. There had become a disconnect between actually working to try to deal with public safety issues. You look at people, Donnie, who have multiple violent records being repeatedly released on the street.
At the same time, we have a lot of police that fill out some not so truthful reports, and
Why aren't they prosecuted?
when I look
And
at,
why aren't they prosecuted?
And when I look at Ken Harris's murder trial, I understand that there were 4 different crime scenes around that, and they had a rookie detective working on that.
1 year. There was a 15-year detective that was supposed to get the case. I'm very intimately aware of my friend Ken Harris's case, and I still, while I respect what his wife had to say, Annette had to say, and that type of thing, I think that the murderers of Ken Harris are still out there.
Any thoughts on our president post midterm election 2010?
I think for the first time, watching that press conference yesterday, President Barack Obama got it. For the first time, I saw in his eyes a humbleness that allows him maybe to understand that just because you're president doesn't mean you're king. And what we saw the first 2 years was the American people saying something to him. Same people that voted for him. I'm not talking about Tea Party folks. See, everybody wants to make this a Tea Party thing. Tea Party folks did not vote and make the reality happen this past election day. It was independents. Independents are more registered than Democrats and Republicans in this country. I think it's about 38, 32 Democrats and like 29 Republicans. That's a percentage breakdown. And independents voted this president into office.
Final question, and it has to do with race. W.E.B. Du Bois said that the problem of the 20th century would be the color line here in 2010. My question to you, what do people mean when they say take our country back?
I don't think they know what they mean. I really don't. When you look at, because you ask them what they mean by that, there could be a racial tinge to it. But I don't think they know what they mean. Here's what I think is behind that statement. What's behind that statement, Donnie, is they have relatives who are losing jobs. They have relatives who can't put their kids in college anymore. If you look at the makeup of this Tea Party movement, they're middle to higher income. They're higher educated. They're not these folks from Appalachia and from West Virginia like folks want to portray them as. They are a group of people who've had their living standards changed. So when I hear take their country back, they're watching Wall Street walk away with billions and their home foreclosed on. And people need to understand that as opposed to denigrate it and call them a bunch of racists. Understand where this anger is coming from.
Good deal. You're on the air, your time?
Noon to 3. Thank you, Donnie. Good plug.
Monday.
Noon to 3, Monday through Friday, WBAL AM 1090. And I always listen to WOLB from 10 to 11.
Good deal. We love and respect
Thank
you,
you.
C4.
Tuesdays, 10 to 11.
Yes, sir.
I got that. Okay.
Keep
Thank
watching.
You.
Thank
God bless you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.